It began in July of 2002 with a night of my usual, at the time, drinking. I mixed a quart of rum with just enough Coca-Cola to color it, and drank that, and checked my email and was fooling around on the internet. One click led to another click and another click, and I gradually found myself in a, finally found myself in a chat room, gay chat room, and engaged in entirely inappropriate conversation with a person who said that he was a 13-year-old boy, 14-year-old boy, in spite of the fact that it was an adult chat room. Well, one thing led to another. He suggested that we should meet, and I drove drunk. It's a miracle I didn't kill myself or somebody else. Drove to the meeting place, and he turned out to be a county sheriff's deputy.
Not 13 or 14.
No, no. And I was arrested and confined in the county jail for 4 months because I couldn't afford to bail myself out. So I spent 4 months in the county jail and pleaded no contest on the advice of my public defender, and was sentenced to 2 years probation, one of which years was to be served as house arrest, and the other just probation. And then after that I was assigned to lifetime supervision.
You don't make any bones about your guilt. You were dead to rights guilty on this offense.
No, it was entirely just, called for. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So lawfully convicted,
yes,
justly accused,
oh, absolutely,
all of that business.
Yes.
Now, what kinds of things, I mean, without getting vulgar and over the top, what kinds of things were you saying that were so inappropriate to the 14-year-old, the allegedly 14-year-old boy?
We discussed sex, and we discussed oral sex as well.
Oh, okay. And then the arrangement was you were maybe going to get together for sex.
Yes.
When
we met.
Made your drunken drive across town to meet with him. You made it sound like, at least with the rum and the Coke, like maybe you'd had a drink or two in your life prior to that night.
Oh, I was and am an alcoholic. And that started back when I was in the service. And they had nickel beer night at the enlisted club.
Nickel beer night would have been
1954, 55,
okay,
56. It started there. And I was an enthusiastic participant at the nickel beer night, which is just about every night. And then it gradually, through my 4 marriages, it gradually came down to rum was my alcohol of choice finally. I never showed up drunk at work or missed work because of being drunk, but
what kind of work were you doing back then?
I was at the time of my offense, I was teaching.
Teaching
at college, local.
What subject?
But English.
So you're teaching adults, essentially.
Oh, absolutely.
And not a public school teacher at the elementary level or anything like that.
No.
But you were drinking daily?
Nightly.
Nightly. So you'd wake up pretty much out of, sober.
Yes.
And you were drinking typically like a fifth every night?
It got to be about between a fifth and a quart every night, yeah. The big bottles, the 1 point.
Yeah, I got to tell you, as a non-alcoholic, that seems like a lot of booze.
Yeah, it was a lot.
But you hadn't flirted with the notion that you might have a drinking problem?
No.
Okay.
No.
I know it's tempting for a lot of people to blame something or someone else for their crime. I'm wondering, how much do you think alcohol was a contributing factor in your chatting to this allegedly 14-year-old boy about oral sex and then finally deciding to arrange a hookup?
I think it was a major part of the loosening of inhibitions. Not that that was sufficient to give me permission to do what I did.
Why weren't you, a guy who had had 4 marriages and a guy who had pursued women pretty much all of his life, why weren't you getting drunk like any honorable man down at the bar picking up barflies?
I was pretty isolated by my own choice. Hadn't had a successful relationship with any woman for at least probably 8 years at the time. And it was one click after another, and just, I think, happenstance that led me to my crime.
Had you had sexual chatter on the internet in these chat rooms before with, say, adults?
Yes.
Men and women, or just men, or?
No, women.
Just women?
Women, and occasionally a guy, but it was, by and large, mostly women.
Why the boy? You know, I mean, there was no real boy. There was no real victim.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah.
But why not hooking up with one of these adults?
Well, they didn't open a conversation with me.
But you did have.
But he did. This detective who was posing as a young boy.
But you said you had been talking to men and women in a sexual way.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
When you say there wasn't a conversation, there was.
Not with these. Well, with in the past there was. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So why not have liaisons with them?
They didn't present themselves as available or interested or willing or whatever.
Did you ask?
No, I don't think no, I didn't.
Is that typical for you, that you don't initiate these sorts of connections, even with adults, that others in your history have initiated them with you?
I found that I didn't have to on the internet.
Well, in your life, though, prior to that?
Oh, in my life prior. In real face-to-face encounters.
Yes.
There were occasions, infrequent, when I would initiate.
But mostly it was others initiating and you going along?
Usually women who initiated, yes.
Well, in the past, always women.
Yes.
Yeah, you've never had sex with men before, so, and still haven't, and you never have had sex with men, so to this day. But I guess if I were to ask you, why not pursue a sex life that would be honorable and legal and satisfying to you? What I'm hearing from you in this interview is, well, I was really isolated, maybe partly because of the booze, maybe boozing partly because of the isolation, I don't know. But but historically, you've always been a somewhat passive guy who waits for others to initiate, right?
Yes.
And so going through this time where the drinking is getting worse after years of drinking, decades of drinking.
Yep.
And being by nature a somewhat more passive than not individual, despite a lifelong career in the Marine Corps,
yep.
Which what might come as a surprise to a lot of Americans watching this, thinking that this career soldier in the Marine Corps might have been somewhat passive in his personal life.